Hello, and welcome to the podcast Not Here to Fix You. We're going to break down the lies, share truths, and talk about everything from food, healing, feelings, and emotions. And I'm your co host, Amanda. I'm a food freedom and guilt recovery coach.
And I'm Lazeina. I am your relationship repair coach. And we are not here to fix what's wrong. We just want to unpack it and talk with you about it. So let's dive in. Today, our topic is what is it? Why you reach for food when you really need what you really need is comfort. And that is something that I am very, very passionate about when it comes to when it comes to emotional eating. A lot of the times we think of emotional eating as weakness, but it's really about our unmet needs. We all have unmet needs, and in this episode, we want to, go a little bit deeper into how unmet needs show up in our eating habits, at least, for some of it. And I think as I'm learning, a couple of years ago, I started learning about my unmet needs. I didn't know what it was. And one of my therapists was like, Rosina, you don't seem to be asking for your needs to be met. And I was like, well, what are those? I don't even know what my unmet needs are. So he's like, well, let's start with your love languages. So I keep doing this and I feel like my hand becomes like really big in front of so we started
The
talking
un-
about, I started looking at my unmet needs as far as my love languages and how that showed up. And one of the things that I love, one of my top love language is physical touch. And that's because I love to feel comforted. And it's not just so much about being comforted, it's being comforted in the right way. And as I started working with you, I realized that food is what I was using for comfort, but it was also what I was using for distraction. It was all what I was using for emotional regulation, how to feel connection, to even feel relief. Sometimes it could be for joy. Sometimes it was just because I was uncertain. Like there was something going on with me that I was using food as a coping mechanism for. Subconsciously, I didn't my favorite memory is being fed by my mom, specifically pumpkin and roti. Favorite thing, and I love the way she cooks it and when she would feed it to me. So she has this way of doing it where she would say um she will take a piece and then she'll say, this is you're eating this for your grandmother, you're eating this for your grandfather, you're eating this for your brother, your sister. That way, I would eat it. But it was just it now when I look back on it, I'm like, that's actually like a really good thing. And then so as anyways, my story is going back to on the physical touch, it was just it was comforting. It was my mom sitting with me, holding me and feeding me, and that is something that I enjoyed. So when I had a lack in my life, when I my nervous system at the time, as I'm learning about my nervous system, whenever something's happening, I need soothing. I was using food to co-regulate to make me feel better. Um, and when I wanted to feel connected and have connection, and when I was missing that connection and I started to feel lonely, I started using food as a way of meeting that need. And I didn't know that it was that deep. I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just eating, and and then I'm stuck in my spiral of like, okay, I'm eating, I'm the victim here. I'm gonna blame now. I'm eating food now. I'm mad about that, and then oh great, now I'm gonna gain weight, and I'm shaming myself there. But when I go to the deeper layer of really understanding what my needs were, that's when I was like, oh, I'm using food as a coping mechanism. I am not using it is not right. It is meeting my needs, but it is meeting my needs in a way that I don't want it to. I'm too reliant on it at that point because food can also be the emotional needs behind food can be for joy. It could be for pleasure. It could be for for community because we love having, feast and all of that. So it's like I had to ask myself, like, am I really hungry for food or am I hungry for soothing? Am I craving sweetness or the sweetness of a relationship or relationships? Um, or am I tired? Am I lonely or am I joy starved? And am I taking um and I'm using, okay, just stuff my face and shame myself instead of like, looking at the positives or what might be the negative that I'm owning from that story. So what do you have any thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I actually love this topic. I'm so excited that we're talking about it because as you were like sharing your experience, I flash back to the time when we started working together, and I know that your biggest struggle was what with emotional eating, and I could give you the tools to help you with that and provide the guidance, some of which you shared. But what was really interesting about this episode that I'm also so excited about is that, like you, when you said previously you didn't know what your unmet needs were, I was also your client and you were coaching me on unmet needs. And I said the same exact thing to you. I was like, what is that? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, yes, I had already, obviously, I was 10 steps ahead of you with my relationship with food. I had overcome emotional eating at that point because that's how I could coach you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing that. But
Right.
I didn't realize how deep it tied in with emotions. Like it working with you really opened my eyes to how emotions play a role. And like you said, like I knew I had these cravings because of these emotions, but I didn't understand where it was coming from. Like at that point of time, I was like, okay, not gonna use food as a coping mechanism because that's what I used to do in the past. But after working with you, I realized I shouldn't just stop there. I need to like try and figure out why this emotion's coming up. So if it's like sadness, I have to figure out why. Of course, I don't use food anymore to cope, but I have to figure out why am I actually sad? Like for me, it was the opposite of what like your struggle was not eating food when I'm sad, and my struggle was, oh, I need to figure out why I'm sad, right? Like I
Yeah.
need to like go into that. Before I was just like, oh, I'm sad. Now I'll just like, distract myself because I don't want to use food to cope. So I have other tools in my toolbox that I'm going to use. But I didn't go into the depth that I did with when we worked together. And that's
Yeah.
how I realized that there's such a huge space you could go into. And I really improved my relationship with myself because now I feel so connected to my emotions. Of course, it's a learning process. I'm not going to be and be like, I'm perfect. But I mean, I definitely think I'm better than when we first started. So I realized just how important it was. And learning from you actually made me tie that into my own practice now because I also developed that awareness and I can bring that to someone else because I don't want to just be like, oh, you're feeling this. So let's, think of ways you can cope without food. I want to go deeper and find out what they're actually craving. Like, why do you have that particular need? And yeah, I think you shared it was coming from a place of loneliness
Yeah.
at one point. I think that's pretty relatable because I definitely remember when I was in my phase of emotional eating that for me it came from a place of loneliness and I'm like feeling anxious or feeling
Mm,
stressed. Like that's when I would turn to food, and in the moment it felt good, but I
mm,
definitely had a huge guilt trip after that, and I felt,
mm.
yeah, terrible about it. But I think we need to hear more about unpacking like the unmet needs. So maybe you should give us like a little bit of depth into what you mean by the unmet needs and how do we know where to
Well,
go from there.
how long do you have?
Well, I don't know. Let's see where we go because this is your wheelhouse, and I know you do this so well. So I just want you to like shine some light on it at
Mhm.
least.
I mean,
So
when it comes to our unmet needs, period, as children, my favorite psychotherapist. I don't know if he's a psychotherapist. I know he's a therapist, Dr. Gabor Mate. He always talks about children grow up and they are born, and we're expected to have nurturing and loving and unconditionally loving parents. But that's not exactly what happens. There's something that happens in our childhood, and emotional neglect has happened. If we talk about like my grandmother time, they were busy trying to survive. They were trying to provide for their families and making sure that there's safety, there's security, there's nurture, there's food, like the core survival needs. So to understand emotional needs at that point, there's no way that they could have given that. They did the best. They very much did the best that they could. So now as we, evolve and there's generations and generations, there's a lot of times, even as much as and I don't say this from shame, I didn't know that I wasn't meeting my children's emotional needs. I didn't know that I had emotional needs as well. So emotional needs are like, those moments where we just want to feel like we got a report card and we're excited about it and we want to share that, but our parents didn't pay attention. Or maybe they had especially in an Indian type of household, you didn't get an A instead of celebrating that you did the work and struggle that it took for you to get that C. We never really take the time to understand what our emotional needs are, to feel seen, to feel respected, to feel belonged, to feel significant, to feel valued. These are all very important. And especially in community. And in community, we share a lot of food as well. So most of the times, if we were shamed in our previous episode, we talk about the guilt of being shamed for our eating habits. Then when my emotional needs aren't being met, as far as like I want to feel belonged and I want to feel I have community, but if I just felt rejected, then I'm gonna go to food and I'm gonna look for food to meet that emotional needs. I want authentic conversation. I'm gonna go to food. Because I can't have it, and that drop in the nervous system. Um, emo just to even emotionally regulate, if I'm getting upset and I don't know that I'm not feeling heard, so I'm gonna get mad and I'm gonna lash out. I don't know that I'm not really feeling understood. I don't know how to name what it is that I need. So I'm like, okay, and nobody's ever going to be able to give that to me. I have to give that to myself, and I'm mad and I'm pissed off. And in that anger and in that frustration, I'm looking for food. I'm eating and I'm shaming myself. So it's like I'm so far removed from what my actual emotional needs are and how I can even authentically get that I just completely just use food as a regulation technique. But most of the time food reminds us, like in our childhood, if emotional availability wasn't readily available, we want warmth, we want care, we want to be tended to. So we naturally will go to comfort, food, gentleness, food, being cared for without judgment. These are all the emotional needs behind of it. And then when it comes to belonging, especially with community wise, I'm saying community because we all have a mom and a dad. We may have aunts, uncles. That is our community. That is our our actual community in that moment. We want authentic connection. We want to feel seen. We want to feel heard. We want to feel belong. But when we don't have that, because let's say we are at a gathering and someone made a comment about our weight, or man, I feel like that's the biggest greeting that you get if you go to a family event and you haven't seen them in a long time. Oh my God, you got so fat, or you haven't been eating. So now I want authentic I see me for who I am. Don't see me. I'm already carrying shame that I'm not the weight that I want, and now I'm going into a connection. I want to feel belonged. I want to feel like I'm part of something. I want to be seen and valued. I don't feel seen and valued now, so I may not want to eat ever again. I may make a decision in that moment that says, I have, so there's a lot of people. In some ways, I'm jealous, and I have some shame saying that. And I think so there's people who will throw up, right? I've, or they won't eat at all. And I'm the opposite. I'm the one who's going to eat. Like I don't know how to not eat. So I'm already coming with shame. So there's people who who actually starve themselves because they don't feel belonged for who they are when they're in a certain environment, you know? So that is another big one. And then emotionally, as far as we are busy people. I am a single mom, and I don't mean that in a I need a man type of way, right? But I take care of my family, I go to work, and I have all my other priorities, including, picking up, dropping off. So when I'm starting to feel tired and I can't anymore, I can't cook, like, oh my gosh, like I could just go buy something and, fill that need. So it's a convenience, right? But when I'm so tired, I'm gonna buy just about anything. I'm like, whatever the kids need, go have it. I don't want to like think about it for a second. I'm not fulfilling that need right there of I need to rest. I need to pause. I need to take some time to really sit with myself and give to me. But I have no time to do that. I feel like that is a lot of families, especially working moms and dads who are, they're out there, out there, out. They have meetings all day. They have all these different things, and then they come home and it's like, oh, I have to cook. you know that could be another way that we're not meeting, when we have emotional needs, we're not being able to meet them, so it comes out in what we prepare, how we prepare it, because it's not very often that we have where we come home as a family and we cook together, and that's a joyful experience. It can be joyful, and I'm not saying that there aren't people who don't have it, but it's not all the time. That's not real reality for some household. And when it comes to, like, celebration, wanting to eat food that's in a joyful space. Like I love when I used to fast, I would get up with my grandma and we would eat in the morning. And it's a sweet spot, man. Like I remember the container, it had layers, and one would have the rice, the other would have the bora, the other would have the chicken. And we would just that was such a joyful experience. And that is a need. That is an emotional need because it's like it sits in your heart. It's a moment with someone special, someone that's not around anymore, and I treasure that. And there's times when I miss that person and I just want to recreate that experience so that I can feel that connectedness. So that's like, another way of meeting it. And me, my mom. I go to my mom in the refrigerator. As soon as I enter her house, I'm to the refrigerator. What do you have? And I know my mom right now probably has 4 to 5 containers of food that has my name written on it on a blue tape because whenever she cooks, she puts it aside for me. I just know that's there. That's joy. That is using food. That is meeting your emotional need. Like that's my mommy. That is my mommy's food. I, we, I think there's so many years that I took that for granted and I didn't realize how much I value it. So now it's like, that every time I go to her house, I know that I can become my little girl and I could just go and lay in her arms and then she's gonna feed me. And one of the things like my stepdad always wanted is every time, and this my grandmother too. Every time we're there, he's like, make sure the kids eat, make sure there's food. And before my grandmother passed away, she said, when I pass away, I want you to go and you're gonna kill a bull and you're gonna feed everybody. Everybody has to get fed. So I feel like, emotional needs are always there, but how I was looking at it when it comes to using food to even meet those needs from joy, I was in and still up to this day, not just was. There's times when I'm using it as a coping mechanism. Um, there's a sense of groundedness when you grow up with family who I feel like I know what it's like to sit at the breakfast table. I know what it's like to sit at the lunch table and the dinner table. And if I didn't have that and I watch TV shows with family members who's had that, that's something that I secretly crave. It's something that I want. And I want that in relationships. I want that. I want to share that experience with others. To me, food is heavily on Not just the comforting, the physical touch. For me, it's physical touch because of my mom, but it's that community, the need for belonging. It is my quality time. That is my quality time, meaningful connection, how much I value being a part of something larger. And then there's like also unconditional worth. Um, there are some cultures where feeding the person is love. And that's the intention that it's coming with. Food, it's survival. We have to eat. Like there's no way we cannot go without eating. So sometimes eating itself is accepting that I need to nurture my body. This is my temple. This is my vessel. This is who I am every day. And nurturing this being that I am, it helps me feel accepted. It helps me soften. And I feel unconditionally accepted when I am giving myself what I need, as far as like, meeting that emotional need there. I think one of the things that I started to ask myself more as I continue to talk to you is when I'm craving something, who's craving it? What is the need behind the craving? Because sometimes when I'm sad, and I just need to like feel it out and have a pause, my go-to, and I think I've said this before, Arby's. They have the jalapeno poppers. It's nice and spicy, but it comes with the bronco berry sauce, and that reminds me of this jam that we had growing up. And so I may be sad, but I'm also honoring that little girl, and that's her dental treat, right? Like the after dentist treat. Like, okay, I want you to tell me how you're feeling. I want to create safety with you. So let's have this. And I'm very intentional with it. So let's have this and let's sit down and let's talk. Are you tired? Are you lonely? Are you missing someone? Are you just hungry or you just need love? And that's kind of how I tie emotional needs into my food relationship nowadays. I feel like I've talked for a very long time, Amanda. Please take over.
No, but you touched on a lot of good points there. Like, I mean, I did tell you to start it because unpacking the emotional needs, I mean, I can talk about it, but it is kind of your wheelhouse. But you brought up a lot of good stuff about especially uh you touched on the joy we experience with eating and also the sadness. And I kind of wanna emphasize on that and say that eating in itself is an emotional experience, right?
Yeah.
We use the word emotional eating, but there's no eating that happens without emotions. It's just that are you eating from a place of positive emotions? Are we joyous? Are we happy? Are we excited? Or are we eating from a place of negative? So are you lonely? Are you scared? Are you anxious? Are you stressed? And the eating behavior can be really different if you're coming from a place of positive versus negative, because it's also, I like what you touched on, because I think you also helped me realize that, yeah, you can eat, like you said, your little girl, she was eating that as a after dentistry, like we talked about in the previous episode.
Yeah.
But you brought that awareness to it, which is what I always encourage people to do. Like I tell my clients, do like it's fine if even I have eaten from a place of sadness in the past, but I guilted myself about it after the experience. But now if I do it, I don't I don't let myself go down that rabbit hole very often. But when I do, I am aware, just like how you are aware. Like, okay, I am sad, but I know that if I have this, it's gonna make me feel a little better, and then I'm gonna move on with my day. I'm not gonna like, make this a spiral that keeps going on. I'm just gonna sometimes you just need to check in, and even if it's from a place of sadness, you just need to accept that that's what you're doing right now and then move on, because it's the awareness for me that I find more important, that I see that it's more important to clients as well. Like it's not Because at that, if you keep looking at it like, oh, I screwed up, I messed up, and you're just gonna keep making that cycle
Yeah.
go on and on. So I think it's important, yes, address the need. I learned to go deep into it and find out, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? What's the memory time behind this that's making me feel this way now? And I like that you shared, like, how you said that food was something that you look forward to because you had those childhood memories. But like, from my perspective, especially when I had emotional eating from the negative aspect, I remember I was going through this really tough phase and I was really stressed out and anxious, and things in my life were just not, like, for me, I like consistency. Like, I'm not saying do the same thing every day, but I do value consistency to some level.
Yeah.
And I realized I used food in that time as a coping mechanism, not so much because I was hungry or I was craving a particular food, but more so because I wanted some form of control and consistency.
Yeah.
So for me, pizza is like one of my favorite foods. So I remember when I was low, I would get a pizza, and it wasn't even to celebrate or anything. It was just because I was trying to cope. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. I knew I wasn't feeling good, but I didn't understand how to self-regulate. Like, that stuff I learned with you. And I knew that I didn't have anyone to help me regulate in those phases. So I was using food. But more than that, I think I started making food almost like a person. So food became like, oh, this kind of person who can help me self-regulate, right? Because if I order pizza, yeah, sure, the taste varies here and there, but I know what I'm gonna get. I'm not gonna be disappointed. And I think I wanted to have the experience where it was
Yeah.
consistent and not facing any sort of disappointment. So it was like, this is a sure thing. I just need a sure thing right now, and this is it. So I would eat that pizza, but it was not coming from a place of excitement. It was coming from a low space.
Mm-hmm.
So pizza wasn't very enjoyable afterward. And it took me a while to understand why. And when I worked with you, I understood that pattern. I was like, oh, that's why I wanted to eat pizza, but at the same time, I wasn't so happy after I ate it. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out till, we worked on that, and I understood, like, I need to find out why I'm sad in that moment and deal with it, not just push it to the side and find coping tools to distract
Right.
myself. Food. So I think it is important, and yeah, the it's very true. It's very true. I think I mean, I don't know about other cultures, but I feel like I hear this from almost every I have friends from other cultures as well, and I feel I hear this from them as well, because they were like, I'll meet my relatives or my friends or whatever at a party after so long. The first thing out of their mouth would be something weight related, like, oh my God, you look so thin, or you like you're fat, or and I'm just like, you don't need to hear that stuff. Like, you're meeting this person after so long. I'm sure we can do better than that. I'm sure we can say something like, how are you? What's going on with you? Tell me the most exciting thing. Why do we just straight away gravitate to, like, oh,
Yeah.
you're so thin and everything in between? And
Right.
it's true. You go there and you're like, if you have a good relationship with the person you're meeting, you're excited. And then that one comment, like a stab to the heart, and suddenly you're just like, I don't even want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if I've got bad body, image
Yeah.
issues. If I just want to leave. And like, why am I here? And then you can't even focus on, the time you're spending with that person, because all you're thinking about is that comment. But that's like a whole nother topic
Yeah.
as usual. But yeah, I think you shine like I want to say a little bit of light on the unmet needs, but there's so much to unpack in there. Like, it's really, I think you brought a lot of it and a lot of understanding today, but there is a lot more to it. You gave like some great examples, but
Yeah.
this is just the surface of where you can go. So if you do have other needs, I can totally recommend Lazeina to help you unpack those, because
Yeah.
she's really good at
I
it.
I appreciate that. The thing I want to add to that is that when it comes to unmet needs, it's not just like, okay, here's step A, B, C, D, or one, two, three. it's we really have to go there. And if you are somebody who's never even gone through your childhood experience, or you've had a childhood experience that is so there's so many negative things there that it's hard to revisit. It's going to take some time. And I literally had to sit with myself and journal about this over and over to even get to really understand what my needs are. It didn't happen in one sitting. It didn't happen in just hearing one topic or watching a YouTube channel or listen to a podcast. It took introspection. So for me, when it comes to unpacking it, let's talk. Like, we have to talk. We have to go there together, and we have to really understand what you were missing and acknowledge what you were missing, because that's not an easy thing to do as well, because we tend to go like, okay, I'm a heavy personal development person, right? So my mindset is important, so I'm going to go into personal development, and I want to reframe all of the thoughts that I've had. But there was a time when I hadn't even gone to that little version of me and acknowledged her, because it meant that I needed to shame my parents, or, bring up some things that I didn't like about them. But really and truly, it's just an acknowledgement of, and I like to say I'm looking at my life like a movie. And I'm just going back to that part of that movie where, those things happened that was unseen. Nobody really ever talked about it, or they were dismissed. And that doesn't mean that everybody's fucked up for that doesn't, I don't know.
That's okay, being real.
It doesn't mean that they're, like, we don't have to go and get mad and stuff like that, but we have to be able to go to find out what the joy was. As much as there was unmet needs in our childhood, there was also joy, and we can't get to that if we don't acknowledge the unmet needs. So you can't just have a conversation about that in like 20 minutes and be like, oh, there's my unmet need. It's so much, and I love doing that. So, but thank you. I'm rambling at this point, but I appreciate the acknowledgement on that. I love looking at the world through the lens of needs. What does this need is always my question. What does this feeling need? What does this experience need? Because it needs something, and more than likely it needs love.
Yeah. And I think it's safe to say, like, for both of us, our work is not about like we say, we're not here to fix you, but if you do need to look at aspects like of your unmet needs or even your eating behaviors, these things take time. Like the healing, to get to the healing, it's gonna take time. And I'm not even gonna say healed, because
Mm,
I personally don't believe anyone's healed. Like no matter how many levels you reach, I feel like we're on this planet, we're just learning, growing, and healing. I think maybe when we go to the next, I don't know, whatever you believe in, but if when you go to the next life, maybe that's when I can literally say, finally we're healed. But in this planet, I do not think we're gonna reach that level. But that does not mean we don't try and improve on ourselves. Because again, I'm also a big believer in personal development. I think that's why we both also vibe so well, because we were like, yeah, I want to learn from you, you want to learn from me. And
yeah.
that's how we've got into this point. But yeah, there's no quick fixes at all. Not like we're trying to fix you, but there are no quick fixes. So if you're coming and you're like, oh, I think this is going to be a therapy session and a one and done, that's not going to happen. That didn't happen for me. So if
Yeah.
Lazeina managed to do that for other people, I'm going to be.
And it's a, and to touch on a little bit of what you're saying, a healed person knows that there's no such thing as a healed person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're always growing, we are always growing and learning. And um it might be heavy sometimes, and it might be like a therapy session. It's not meant to be but if we look at it from the lens of let's explore and what we can uncover about ourselves, so that's where it's exciting. That's where
Yeah.
it becomes
Great.
joyful. It becomes a co-discovery. I know you. Like, I know your heart. I know your ups and downs. I know your highs and your same highs and those ups and downs. I know what makes you feel joyful. I know also what hurts your heart. So, it's forming that actual authentic connection and belonging and community of just being real and speaking to each other's hearts. At least that's my, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's totally fair, because it's only when you like really take the time to like know a person and learn a person. And initially I felt like I was the only kind of person out there who cared about like, going that much in depth until I think we developed that relationship. It's like, oh, there are other people out there who also like doing this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like a big way of saying that all this, whether it's your eating behavior or the emotional aspects or your childhood, all this needs a deep dive, and you can't, like she said, there's no ABC 1, 2, 3. Like it's different clients have different levels and different steps that you take to get. And again, you're not going to be healed, but healing is what we're going for. Healing and just having a much better relationship, whether that's with yourself or with others or with food. So that's pretty much what we are aiming to do here. But yeah, that's kind of what we generally do on this podcast, and just share our experiences and talk about, all the stuff that goes on. And I'm so grateful that you brought light onto the unmet needs today, because I feel like you did that really well. And like I said, you did it so well that I've incorporated some of that when I cook with people now. So I think that's something, no, that's really something I learned from you.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I helped you with the eating behavior, but you helped me with the emotional aspect, which was so much, there was so much depth to it that I didn't even understand what was going on.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm just grateful that we managed to have this journey so far.
Yes, me too. I'm glad. So I think it's time for us to wrap it up a little bit today, but we'll be back again. We're not.
Yeah, we will. And thanks for being here with us today on our podcast. And if this episode resonated with you in any way, or you just want to leave us a comment and share your own experience, feel free to reach out and drop it in the, or I don't know where your comment's going to go, but it's going to go to us, right? Lazina's
Yeah.
got that stuff. But it's going to, and share this with someone who's also going through a struggle with emotional eating. As far as I know, it's a huge struggle for a lot of people. So I feel like this topic could resonate with a lot. That's kind of why Lazeina and I took time to talk about it today. And we're going to leave all our details in the show notes of where you can find us. And I think Lazeina actually has got, I'm sure she's got like a quiz or something for you guys to take. And like we probably discover where the unmet emotional needs
Oh,
are.
yes, there's a website, my website, lazeina.com, and you can take your quiz and find out what your emotional needs are. And my book is on Amazon, The Relationship Repair Language, because that really breaks down a lot of your emotional needs as well. And it's really more to build better relationships with each other and yourself. But I think emotional needs, they are very deep. And if you want that book, it's on Amazon. And if you want to set up a complimentary call with me, go for it. It's on my website, lazeina.com. Yeah, just lazeina.com it up.
And as someone who's already done both the quiz and read the book, I can highly recommend it. So yeah, definitely do that. And I have some news too. I am going to be putting out my quiz. It's going to be on eating behaviors. So I've got everything down. I just need to get the link in. That's going to be available soon, and I'm going to put it in the show notes. But yeah, if you're wondering which type you are, what kind of eating behavior you have, definitely take that quiz, and at least it will help you discover why you do the things you do. And then if you want to work on having a much better relationship and not spiraling, you can reach out to me. As I said, both of us have our details in the show notes.
Yeah.
So until next time, we're going to catch you on the other side. Thanks for being here. Bye.